Welcome to memoQ Talks, where we talk to industry leaders about their experiences, lessons learned, and what works best across all areas of localization. Now here's your host.
Hey, Jordan, how are you?
It's a good morning. I'm preparing a fresh mate, so about to be even better. How are you?
That's great. Do you got one of those little fancy little cups and the straw thing and everything like that?
Just need some hot water.
Oh, nice, man. You probably went down to one of those, was it Vamos Juntos or something like that, and picked up a whole bunch of those, huh?
Actually, it was in Buenos Aires. We had a team offsite where we got everyone together, and there was a hip store, and I had to stock up with my mate gear.
You have to. That's awesome. I think, did you go to university in a Spanish-speaking country? I saw something on your LinkedIn profile.
In Mexico. But I had a friend in college she was from Uruguay, and I attribute my college degree to her because she introduced me to mate, and that was great for pulling all-nighters.
That helped you, that little boost of caffeine, that mate boost, it just helped you
yes.
stick it out. Hey, I would ask you, how are things? I know that you're in Santa Barbara, or you're usually in Santa Barbara, and I'd ask you how things are, but I mean, things are always just beautiful in Santa Barbara. So what's the point, right?
It's a good life. Yes, it's a good life. I did a stint with your neck of the woods in the Pacific Northwest in Seattle. And that's a different type of beautiful. But we got more sunshine down here than you.
It's green. It's very green here. That's what everybody says. Oh, we have the rain. It's green. I did notice on your LinkedIn profile that there's an image with a bunch of balloons, those hot air balloons.
Yes.
Have you done that?
Yeah, that's in Turkey, in Cappadocia. I don't know if I pronounced that correct.
I don't know either, so it doesn't matter.
Sure.
Hey, but so what was that like, man? I mean, what was Turkey like, and what was the hot air balloon excursion thing like?
Well,
I'd be terrified.
Yeah, it's like you're standing in a basket, and so you've got the sense of like a floor. So it's not as scary as you would think. I mean, you look over the side and you see the terrain, and that you're actually way up with the birds and the clouds. But I highly recommend it. It's for those that are scared of heights. My wife is. She did fine. So I think you do just fine. And then, I mean, life is so short. So things like that, you never forget. And so that's experiences, travel, and dovetailing that into our industry and just how we work with languages and culture. For me, travel is like the top luxury that I will save up for and scrap for to make sure to travel. So now we have a global team, and it gives me an excuse to mix business and pleasure, but highly recommend Turkey. Highly recommend those experiences that you wouldn't normally do back at home.
Yeah, totally agree with you. I think probably one of the best things about the localization industry is we have people from all around the world in places all around the world, and there's so many different opportunities to travel. I got my introduction to the industry in a regional role in Asia, and it was awesome. I loved it, and the people that you meet tend to be very much interested in travel and food and languages, and so it's great. Let me ask you, maybe you could give like the quote unquote elevator pitch for the origin of Language Network and how you became involved and where you're at now. So that's a lot of pressure. You're in an elevator. Let's say we're going up to the 12th floor.
I was going to ask you, how many floors is this elevator? So 12 gives me enough time.
12, and then they kick you out. Yep.
Sure. So Language Network is a US-based but global team. So I guess we're globally based. Half of us are in the US, half around the world. We provide language solutions, which can be spoken, written, or signed. Government, healthcare, international business are our three pillars. What I love about what we do is we're a bridge between technology, between people. And so I like to share we're tech enabled, that we're not stuck in the mud, that we're actually an innovative team, and we become a language department and an expert to our clients. So we help advise them and fit into their workflow. That's really how we stand out in a service industry, is how you do your work, how you deliver the service. So in addition, we're a roll-up. So we buy good fit language companies, and that's been key to our growth. We've scaled up tremendously, which we'll get into in the chat. And then also I'll promote Hire Globo, which was a spin-off company from Language Network. We provide global staffing and recruiting services. And that's been the key to our success in building our team everywhere and handling compliance and
Mhm.
payroll. So that's what I do Monday through Friday. Are we at the 12th floor yet? I think we probably are, right?
You're getting pretty close. Getting pretty close. Let me ask you. I did mention like the origin story there. How did the company get started, and how did you get involved?
A couple interesting points. I fell into this industry like many, but I had the benefit of
Mhm.
mom being an interpreter and back in the 70s and 80s in Los Angeles. So there was a familial
Mhm.
aspect of seeing her start Language Network. I bought the company in 2017. Uh,
So this was not a company where you knew the founders per se,
well, I
or
did.
you were
I
just
grew
out.
up with them. Uh,
Oh, so it was okay. Okay, it was your mom's business then.
that's
Okay.
right. Language Network was a family
Oh, okay. I
business.
thought. Okay.
And
Okay. Gotcha.
the before that, I worked in tech software startups. I'd say five of them. Three of them went belly up.
Yeah.
One of them was mediocre success, and one was acquired by Booking.com. So it's flipped from tech on the West Coast into this beautiful, invisible language services industry, and helped mom and dad retire. And truly, it was a lifestyle business. Four people, 700,000 in revenue, had been around for 30 years in the greater Los Angeles area. So I saw the potential to scale this thing up. And I'm just so grateful that
That's
my parents started it. I got to take it over and buy it from them.
that's a great story. And again, you were coming from the outside, sort of. You're familiar because you saw your parents running the business. A lot of times when people are part of a family-owned business, or at least they see it growing, sometimes it's hard to imagine how do you get to the next level. And obviously, you were able to see some value there, but buying a business, it can be kind of a scary proposition. What potential did you see from that early stage that where you could bring some value and say, hey, you know what, I think we can get to this next level? What were the things that you were looking at?
Great question. A couple of things came to mind as you were asking the question of what's possible here. And I had a vision for where we could take Language Network. And it wasn't a sexy
Hmm.
vision. It was we can grow and be a stronger, more entrenched regional provider. That was the first iteration that I saw this nice little business that they had built, but we can add technology and we can add in sales and marketing stuff that I had learned in my career elsewhere that I could bring to the table
Hmm.
and try out. And fortunately, that was a vision that was like, can we double in size? Can we triple? And that was my
Hmm.
vision to start. Very quickly after buying the business, the vision expanded to also do acquisition of can we be a West Coast, not just a regional California player, but up and down multi-state. And so it's been an iterative vision. Every year you kind of reassess where are we going, what can we do, and do I have the right people? So now the vision's much bigger and more dynamic than those early days, but it really was blocking and tackling fundamentals. When you're a small business, like 700,000 with four people, you wear a lot of hats. So if there's nowhere to hide, you got to roll up your sleeves and do all the things and grow the thing.
Yeah, it's interesting because my first foray into the localization industry, I actually took over an organization that was doing about $1 million a year, and we in 5 years went up to about 5 million. And so I can
Amazing growth.
totally relate to out there running hard to get the next big customer. Oh my gosh, we've got it. Now, how do we take care of them operationally? And so it's that whole chicken and egg thing. And, maybe you can walk us through some lessons learned that, you experienced or were able to take away from going from, four people, 700,000. And then did you just go out immediately for an acquisition, or did you try to grow organically? And then how did you manage that?
Okay. I hope I've got more elevator floors because there's so much in there we could.
Oh, no, no, no. We're off the elevator
Okay.
pitch now. Now we're into the meat of the podcast here. Okay.
All right. That's good. We're on the stairway here.
Yeah.
Gosh, operationally, you got get the customers and take care of the customers. you've got the get paid component. So it's like three core buckets as a service company. So the first part, when a company are that size, that small, I didn't want to stay there. I didn't join because, took a big pay cut to buy the company and have it that size. So first order of business was, let's grow this thing. And so you look at, where do you already have success? Where do you already have traction? What are some common customers, some common buyers and common needs that we're already doing a good job in? And that's what we went out, and I drove around with donuts and pan dulce and tamales, and old school is new school, is do customer visits, prospective customers in the greater LA area. And so that was, rule number one is, let's pay attention to our acquisition and customer funnel. And there's nothing special or magic about it. It was just consistent effort every day, every week to talk to prospective customers. And we use the lookalikes. Who do we serve? Where's the next one that looks like them? Fortunately, now you can use the internet to quickly prospect and build a really targeted list. So we were able to grow and double in the first 12 months, also including losing our top customer. That was 200,000 of that 700. So I was pounding pavement those first 12
Congratulations,
months.
You're a business owner. Tell him what he's won. A business that just got a haircut. It's just like, ouch.
Yes.
Must have been stressful.
Oh, 100%. But when you just see, I got to move, I got to go forward, you figure it out. And so hindsight wouldn't want to do it again. But we figured it out, and there's something to be said about just showing up and trying to add value with your prospective clients, and especially bringing them some food. Fast forward to the other segment is, what can we do operationally? So the small business, it works okay right now, but what can we do? Let's introduce some technology. Let's try and streamline our workflow of client request to delivery. So we implemented different softwares like interpreter intelligence and a TMS. We weren't sophisticated enough just yet to add cat tools. That came shortly after. And then overhauled the back office, all of our accounting. And with the team, we went remote. So instead of having an office, we implemented some tools to start being flexible and working remote. I was in Santa Barbara and the company was down in LA. So that was out of necessity. So we really evolved quickly in those few areas.
So, I mean, you're talking about a lot of different things there, especially when it comes to the technology and then going remote. Those are some big changes. And, normally I guess you would maybe talk to your parents or the previous owners and say, hey, I'm thinking about making these changes. The challenge with that is that oftentimes, founders or legacy owners are like, well, we've never done it that way. We've always done it this way. Why would you want to change? Right. Going 100% remote. We need people in the office. I want to see them there. I want to see them doing their work. Right. So, I mean, you have to change that mindset and the paradigm. So did you consult with your parents, the previous owners, on this, or did you seek outside kind of guidance? I mean, because you were very new to the industry, so you couldn't just come in and say, hey, I want to use cat tools. So how did that work out?
Yeah, good question. I think evolution flashes in my mind, that evolution is the order of things, that everything must evolve. And if you don't, you become irrelevant and you go the way of disappearing. That's facts. And it's hard to acknowledge that if you're doing something for a long time. So I spent some time consulting before I actually bought the company, and got to really learn things and get really comfortable. Not knowing everything, but just soaking everything up like a sponge and earning the right to introduce new ideas versus coming in and saying, I've got it figured out. You guys are doing it wrong. So that's a really critical step, is to come in with some inspiration and vision, but the humility to just observe and learn and ask, and build the credibility, even though it's for people, to start introducing these new ideas. It's funny, those team members are still with us, and the company we're 42 people and we're globally distributed. We'll do 12 million this year in revenue. So just an order of magnitude different, but the fundamentals still apply today. No matter how big you are, is just that change management, and trying to get people bought in that this is for the good of our customers, for our vendors, for the company. It's not about optimizing for your comfort and your brain space to perceive a new way of doing things. So, and then the other thing, Mark, is I bought the company 100% and at arm's length for this reason, that I knew we were going to overhaul things, and sometimes it's just too hard to have multiple chefs in the kitchen. And so they get to be cheerleaders and be retired, and I can consult with them, but it's really, I'm in the kitchen and we're cooking something up.
That's a great story. How many acquisitions have you made?
We've done 4 acquisitions since 2018.
Okay, and wow, that's a lot. So we're looking at 6 years, so almost one a year. Do you have a sort of heuristic that you use when you want to either search or then qualify a target as something that you want to pursue?
Absolutely. We try and do 1 to 2 a year. So that's, and that I say good fit as the baseline heuristic. Good fit. Mm-hmm. We could dissect that a little bit further. It's like, what are the characteristics of it? What are the capabilities? So the services, the team, the technology. The other thing that we look for is the clients. So where are they based geographically? What type of vertical are they in? Are they contracted? Are they not? And then finally, the third C, the 3 C's of good fit is, actually it's 4 C's, but the third C is cash flow. So what do the numbers tell us? That's what keeps the wheels spinning. Is that's the oil, is cash flow. Is there a way that we operate this better and that it makes us better too, from a numbers perspective? And so we don't do turnarounds. We look at companies that come in that we can have accretive growth. Accretive meaning 1 + 1 equals
3 or 4 or something. Yeah.
And then the 4th C that I almost forgot, which is almost number 1 important to see if there's a good fit, is chemistry. And that chemistry is like cultural. It's with us, the buyers and the sellers. Can we build enough connective alignment on what the current owners and leadership have and want versus what we have and want? And with the team, will it be widely accepted? How can we truly be better together? And so those are kind of the 4 C's of what a good fit is in my mind.
So 3 of them seem a little bit subjective in terms of, how you feel about things, right? Yeah. And especially when you talk about chemistry, can you give me an example of a deal where you walked away from because the chemistry wasn't there, and describe that feeling or the experience? You don't have to name any names. I mean, I don't want that. I just want a learning lesson here.
Yeah. Yeah. It goes back to the vision. So, what's our vision for Language Network, and how is that big enough to fit the vision of what this owner and this company has? You look at the clients, do they match our clients, or are they totally different direction? And I'll give a specific example. We're in healthcare, and this is like media, multimedia services for Netflix, very niche, way over here, because you could take language services any direction, but how far off of center is it? So there's that and a fit, but the culture of like the owner, what they want. Some people are just maximizing for dollars and cents. And I find those are the worst deals for us, because sure, we want to maximize what we can pay for a company, but we also care about what happens after. We're going to be running it. And so there's just different perspectives. Some people that's all they care about. And that's usually not a good fit. To find deal terms.
How do you get a sense of that? I mean, in a business conversation, obviously there's a lot of verbal, nonverbal communication. But how do you get a sense of their motivation here is just to maximize dollars and cents versus the customer experience? I mean, it's interesting because I think we probably are kind of aligned.
Mhm.
I always said, especially when we're dealing with our newer customers, but it's true for all our customers. I want to just give them the white glove treatment so that they walk
Mhm.
away and are happy. And I don't even care if we lose money on the first few projects or deals. I want to earn their trust, learn their processes, come back
Right.
and find a way to deliver value. And then later we can optimize the margins a bit. But it shouldn't always be about that, because if I swap this linguist out or this project manager out for somebody who's going to do the job not to the same level, it's going to, after a while, it's going to come back to us, right? So, but you give me an example in a discovery conversation, how you're able to kind of figure out, what, these people are just all about the dollars and cents.
Yeah. I mean, great point with the trust and the client experience, that white glove. And it's better to, what do they say? Under promise and over deliver. And just in
Totally.
life, I align with that, what you just said. So part of this is truly gut and intuition, and you going slow to go fast. Like, let's go have a meal and talk about your business and what you want and where it's going. And then you're listening. And you're listening for the things that were said, that were not said, that how they were said, to really start building a picture of, and then also in the process of discovery, like, well, what do you want out of this transition? What do you like? What's most important to you? Let's go down the list. And truthfully, like, money is very important, absolutely. But ego, I think, and maximizing for the variable of dollar is usually where there's not fit. Where there is a letting go, the owners, and handing it off, my baby, to these new owners, and it comes down to trust. And so it's a
Right.
tough process. It's a living entity, right? These companies are not real estate. You're not buying a home that's just sticks and stones. We're dealing with people, we're dealing with problems, we're dealing with attitudes. So I'm giving you kind of a mushy answer, Mark, but there is a science and a formula to it, but there's also
sense.
a relationship and really trust your gut, component, and their spreadsheets.
It's funny. I've seen so many businesses, not just in localization, but everywhere, that are, family created and owned and run. And after a while, they, kind of hit a ceiling and they want to scale, and it's all about how. And if you don't have some of that fresh perspective, it's difficult to do that. But to get that fresh perspective, you have to be open, and you have to be able to trust the people that you're working with, right? Because you could have some consultants come in, you could have a potential buyer come in and say, hey, we want to do this, but God, it's our baby, man. We don't want to change it. But let me come back. You did mention cash flow. And that's something that's probably a little bit easier to look at objectively.
Right.
So what's your kind of metric there? What do you look at?
Absolutely. The number one metric for our industry is gross margin. That's you starting there. The revenue is a vanity metric, and sure, it's great. So what are the contracts that lead to revenue? But really, like, how well are you operating? Like, what's your margin? Can it be improved? So we look at it from the frame of what is and what could be, or we look at it of, wow, we can only mess this up. So you kind of look at it from multiple angles on the margin. We look at what the operating expenses are. So they subtract that out of what's left of the gross margin. Then you get bottom line. So we get this EBITDA number. I've seen all across the board. I've looked at 40 something companies. So it's been an education in and of itself. Most companies are flat in our industry. Some grow 10, 20%, and then they contract, but they kind of stay within a band is one thing I've noticed. Cause it's very hard to scale them. Scaling a service business is really difficult. So sometimes it's better just to optimize and be in a certain bracket that everyone's happy with, and optimize for that.
When you've looked at these 40 something different companies, do you see any similarities in terms of common issues why the margins aren't big enough? Is it just, for example, obviously maybe they're not working remotely and they've got a lot of, fixed costs, or maybe they're not negotiating with the linguist, or maybe they're not every year telling the customer, hey, you know what, we've got to raise the rates. I mean, is there a kind of common theme or trend, or is it all over the place?
It's all over the place, but the common things that we see versus like our playbook, which I'm happy to share, it's really, rising tide floats all boats, is how can we expand the margin? And most of the time people don't raise prices. Like, God forbid we create any friction with our clients, but after a while, like, clients expect it and you're doing yourself a disservice. So that's one thing that's really important. Most people, I'd say 97%, don't raise prices. And so we come in and look, where can we do that strategically? Number two, this is kind of a shout out to efficiency gains, like using a CAT tool like memoQ, of how can we improve those margins.
Glad you said that, man. Glad you said that.
I was not paid to say it, but we're a happy customer. Right. And that's a key part of the playbook too, is where can we expand that margin with tools and know-how. So memoQ has been a big part of that for sure. And then also the team. So how can we come in and improve our productivity for what we're spending on team? And we've really scaled hiring globally, versus hiring domestically. Nothing wrong with hiring domestically, but the global talent always amazes me. The people that we have available to us with the technology to work remote, we can hire the best person for the role at the best price. And it's a win-win-win. And so that's another part of the playbook is hiring the best person no matter where they are in the world. And that helps improve the margins as well. Most people are not doing that. And it's 2024. So you can hire.
Oh, I mean, you're preaching to the choir here. And I think most people in our industry, or many people in our industry are I would think they'd be on board with that. I can't imagine any successful low company that doesn't have some people in other countries that come from their main office. I'm running a SaaS, B2B SaaS startup, and I'm the only employee in North America. We've got our CRO is off in various parts of Europe, and our dev team is in Hungary, and I've got marketing or UI UX designers in Argentina, and other people at other locations, and it's awesome. I love it. Yeah. You find the best person for the best role, and hopefully it's something that aligns with your budget. Let me ask you though, when it comes to the search process, both for the acquisitions, but also for your global talent pool. Okay, we take this in a two-part question. Do you work with consultants to bring you target candidate companies, or do you work with consultants on the hiring aspect? And let's take them in, like I said, one by one.
Yes, and yes is the simple answer.
Okay.
That nobody has a monopoly on people, and nobody has a monopoly on M&A opportunities. And so you really have to be open and work all of the channels. And for me, these are two topics as the CEO I have the greatest influence and leverage over for the company, is these M&A deals that really catapult our growth, and the people and the culture, and they bring new skill sets, add more value to the clients, add to the team morale and the esprit de corps. Normally I use curse words when I use French, but I actually pulled off using a French word here. So,
I'm impressed. You're trilingual now, yes. At least.
I'm in the mood with the Paris Olympics, but pardon my terrible accent. The truth is, yes, work with industry brokers and consultants or folks that will do M&A, like sell side or buy side. I try and be out there and talk about what we do and give value, and hopefully that has some sort of return. Somebody says, hey, Jordan buys companies and we're looking for the right fit. So we've gotten lead flow direct. With talent, same thing. You try and be out there and go to the conferences and observe, who's in our industry, who's a rising star, who should we bring on board. And then also Hire Global, the company I mentioned, is an internal Profit Center. It's a separate company we spun off from Language Network, where we've got recruiting and vetting and onboarding and payroll that helps Language Network scale our team, but also we help many other companies do the same thing. And that was really organic to spin off, Hire Globo, and I think that's been our secret sauce.
So is Hire Global, does it work as a kind of back office for your various organizations? So you mentioned payroll so each organization doesn't have its own payroll, or everything would go through Hire Global. Is that what you're saying?
That's right. Yeah, Hire Globo provides a bridge to all of the back office team support, compliance, payroll, benefits, helps consult on programs to incentivize team. And so from finding to supporting and everything in between on a global team. So that's been our big channel for building out culturally and having team members in Europe and China and Latin America and all over.
So have you made any acquisitions outside of North America?
Not yet. So we are keen on Europe and being available over there. We've got some customers that have pulled us there. We've got some team that have pulled us there. So that makes a lot of sense for us, and we're open and actively looking there. But we're opportunistic acquirer. We're not private equity. We don't have any mandate to, sell to a big company in 5 years. So I think that one's just been a matter of what's come that's been a good fit over the last 6 years. And so far it's just been the US, which we're happy to do.
Okay.
The US is the largest market for our industry.
Absolutely. In terms of hiring talent overseas, do you find, give me an example. You already mentioned several different countries, but give me an example of the countries that you're hiring the most people in. And are there certain profiles or job descriptions that are better? So for example, PMs in Argentina or linguists in, Barcelona. I don't know. Are there any kind of, what's the word, commonalities there? Or is it just, you're always just looking for the best person regardless of where they are?
This is a fun question, and that there's talent everywhere. That's the truth in every country. When we look at this, it's who's closest to our customer, time zone wise, culturally, not that far off from what we have. So that's number one. Like, how does that talent fit into what we've got? How much complexity we're going to add? But some of the fun countries that we're noticing trends, like Brazil, is always amazing. The problem with this question is I'm going to forget a bunch that should get a shout out, but I'll just share a few favorites, and that's my qualifier.
Okay.
Brazil, amazing digital marketing talent, just entrepreneurial, hardworking tech talent as well. Same with Argentina, a lot of tech, a lot of startups have gone to Latin America, so you can get like this iterative, like startup culture, PMs and ops people, fantastic across the board, in Argentina, Peru, Venezuela has been a gem. It's unfortunate what's happening there. But it's just amazingly talented people, those that are still there. And then, Spain is always a favorite, for me, because of the food and also just the hunger and the opportunity there, and they have good education system. And then let's say Asia, because you did a stint there. We've got some amazing team members in China, Vietnam, but there's so many great pools over there. You really can't go wrong being open, globally. I've skipped over a number of places. People operate in Egypt and have really great production centers there. India. I'll just stop there. I don't have experience in those ones, but I don't want to get any comments later that I forgot their country.
No worries at all. And then let me ask you, because I totally agree with you that, hiring is probably one of the most important jobs a CEO can do, or any leader can do, is the whole thing about get the right people on the bus. So when you're talking to somebody, how do you figure out if they're the right person? Because, some people interview really well, And then you get them in the seat and you're like, oh man. And some people, they're not really good at interviewing, but they're amazing performers. So, what's your heuristic for getting the right people on the bus?
Great question as well. So this same comes into the same M&A thing. It's like there's this gut and chemistry, and then you pair it with an actual process and numbers and data. So the equivalent, M&A, you asking all these questions, building relationship, and then pairing like spreadsheets and diligence and all of that with people. It's do the same. Break bread with people that you can go grab coffee in person in real life if possible. But pair that also with personality testing. We love DISC profile and predictive index. And at this point, I've made enough bad hires as well as great hires where I don't just trust my gut anymore. It's having a process where we have multiple people interview. We've got a survey, questionnaire. Do they align with our core values as a company? Does their experience relevant to what the role is, or we understand the role is? We use this from EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System. It's called GWC.
Yeah.
Get it, want it, capacity for it. And it's really like the razor's edge of, does this person get it as far as like the role? Do they want it? Like there's the desire, there's this, flicker of inspiration. And then do they have the capacity for it? You have the right skills, hard skills, soft skills. But we use personality tests to really green light. And I'd like to say we're all evolvable and moldable, but we also have a strong sense of who we are, and we got our strengths and we got our weaknesses. So putting somebody in a sales seat, which is generally more, I'll use the DISC profile as an example. I've found that most successful in sales are on the DI side of that. And the more project managed, back office, organized are on this SC side of it's a circle.
Remind me, what's the DI and the SC?
So the D is like dominating or like driving, more take charge. The I is like influencing, being persuasive, rallying people. The S, is like steadiness, and the C is conscientiousness. And so,
yeah, you definitely want that in a PM.
Yes, absolutely.
You don't want me in a PM role. Trust me, man.
That's right. That's absolutely
I'd be
right.
out the door.
So I think that's so important is, know coming in, like what that role is probably a better fit for, paired with that person, what their base kind of fabric is. So I lean heavily on that. Predictive index has its own nomenclature, but you can have these tests. You can pay for them one-off. But I swear by them at this point. There's no reason to not have that step in your interviewing.
And at least it's a conversation piece too, right? I mean, you could say, hey, we're looking at this here, and it's, it says that you're extremely introverted, and you're applying for a sales role. Is this something that how do you feel about this? I've seen that happen in the past as well. But what I'm taking away from you here is, you took over an organization that was, relatively small, and you've grown it, 12-fold, 13-fold, something like that. Since I forget what was the time that you actually took it over?
2017.
That's amazing. So in 7 years, that's really impressive. And a big part of that is whether you're, looking for acquisition targets, vetting them, or hiring people, or sourcing new talent, that you have a process. And instead of just going with your gut, you need to have the process, because the process is not just your process; it involves other people on your team, and I'm sure they enjoy being part of that as well. I think that's really, really smart. I've been in situations where I've been tempted to shortcut the process,
right?
Or I've seen other people shortcut it, and almost always it's backfired. Just go through the process. And even if you made the right decision with the person you wanted to hire, but if you cut out your team, now they don't have a vested interest in making that person succeed because you didn't involve them, right? I mean, so it's pretty smart, that process to grow. Maybe that can be the kind of the theme here. Couple more questions. I have to ask you about the Academy of Languages, because I'm up here in Seattle. And way back in the day, I'm sure I was in there either taking a Chinese course or a Japanese course or something like that. They used to be like a language school.
That's right.
And I saw one of their representatives who at the point, I'm as sharp as a marble. I didn't connect the dots. They were part of your organization. I forget the person's name, but she was at memoQ Day in Seattle up here. And I said, "Oh, ALC, you guys do language lessons?" She goes, "No, actually, we do language services and da da da." And I was like, "Wow, the language learning or the lessons thing was way back in the day." But maybe you can talk a little bit about that acquisition. And did they just completely transition out of language lessons, or do they still offer any services like that? And
sure. So it's a small world, is what I'm taking away, and I'm also sharp as a marble. So what does that mean about our conversation? Two marbles conversing here,
right? Nobody's going to listen.
Yeah, that's right.
There's nothing to learn here. Well, they can learn from our mistakes.
That's right.
I guess.
That's right.
Anyway, go ahead.
And we don't have it all figured out, and I think that's the key is admitting that I don't have all the answers, nor do I have a monopoly on all the good ideas. So I'm going to go find them, and we're going to try something out, and we're going to admit when we're wrong or it didn't work out, and we're going to pivot. So that's been the key. If you dumb down like our strategy and how we've gotten to where we are and the growth, it's just been being committed and consuming books and talking to other people having success and trying things out and getting up and going. Academy of Languages, I think that evolution process was the same. They started as a local language school. And the founders, Choki is his name, and was an early member and founder of Notice, a branch of the American Translators Association in the Northwest.
Okay.
Started the language school, and organically people started also asking for support in other areas, languages, so translation and interpreting. And they were in the greater Seattle area long enough that that just took off way more than the language school did, and they decided to pivot. And so when we entered the picture, they were done already with the language school side of it, and had gone all in on translation and interpretation to the greater, King County, greater Seattle area.
Yeah, it's funny because for me, that name is somewhat iconic for the Seattle area, because back in the day, if you wanted to learn a language, there was maybe there was Berlitz, and then there was I think it was called the Washington Academy of Languages, or maybe it was the Academy of Language. I can't remember, but they had actually a physical location downtown, maybe near Pioneer Square. I can't remember.
Yep, that's absolutely right. Good memory.
Went there. Yeah. And I actually went there and took a couple courses once. I might have even sold them advertising. I think one of my first jobs out of university was advertising sales, and I think that's how I ended up taking classes. I can't remember. I'll connect the dots on this later. But wow, it's kind of a walk down memory lane when I saw that name at the memoQ Day Seattle. So yeah,
and I love that there's that connection with you in that area, that are the team still with us after we acquired it, and we still have the brand. We want to honor what was built in the community, working with the interpreters and the different stakeholders of the clients, but also part of the language network family. So we're truly building a network, honoring the name, but it's with these good fit acquisition, and we keep that brand and that goodwill, because that's where there's trust. That's where the value started.
Yeah.
But I had 3 books that I wanted to give a shout out to. If nobody else got anything from Two Marbles,
that was going to be my next question. Yeah. Good. Go ahead.
These ones are Traction, EOS. We talked a little bit about this, the Entrepreneur Operating System. It's an operating system much like a computer needs, but how do you set goals as an organization, deal with issues, communicate? We implemented that early, and that's been super key to our success. This one's Simple Numbers.
Rick Antezana is a huge proponent of the EOS as well, and the book Traction. who's
Absolutely.
was written by I forget, by the creator of the EOS. So,
yeah, absolutely. Simple Numbers by Greg Crabtree. Highly
Mm-hmm.
recommend. So I'm a fan of taking a wheel that spins and slapping it on our car. And so that's what these are really, is like, this is a how to deal with people and set up your organization and set goals and meet around that. This is about financial, operating on your margins, knowing what your target should be. And this other one is the commercial piece, the 1-page marketing plan. And just
Mm-hmm.
people pull their hair out, like thinking, how do we grow this darn thing? But I think this has also a really good like framework or checklist to go through of like, okay, are we going after the right type of customer with the right price, with the right value proposition? So do yourself a favor. Those are 3 wheels that have worked on our car. So highly recommend.
Awesome. And well, thank you for that. I'm going to ask for one more recommendation in terms of, you know, you can read books and you can glean inspiration from those, but sometimes it's nice to interact with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do that? Well, one, is that important for you in terms of to interact with your peers, to learn from them? And if so, do you do it in the local industry, or do you step outside the industry and try to figure out other things that are working outside the industry and maybe bring some things back to this industry?
I haven't thought about that too much. I think the answer is yes. Again, I go get to conferences, but now I find that I learn more from just the experience, and maybe having a consultant, or having a one-off call with somebody else that I've met in the industry. How have you guys solved this problem, or what are you seeing or noticing? So I glean a lot from some of the research from Nimsy and Slater, conversations with peers that now I've met and built relationships with. I'm a part of a couple of professional groups that are non-industry, like CEO groups. So those are really good, because it tastes like chicken, as they say. Business. It's like, no matter what industry you're in, like, tastes like chicken. You still got people and marketing and, your numbers. And so it's nice to get out of the industry and really, I don't know, as a CEO, as the leader, you have to keep growing and evolving. Otherwise the org's going to stall out. So those are my favorite sources.
Awesome. All right. Then last question, running a company, and growing it as much as you have over the last 7 years takes a lot of energy, a lot of drive. And aside from mate, copious amounts, massive.
Yeah.
Then how do you stay energized, physically and mentally?
Health, bike riding, getting out on that road bike. Yeah. At first I felt guilty, Mark, for like taking a long lunch and going for a bike ride. But now I've reframed that as like, I'm a better CEO and better manager, better husband when I go on bike rides. So that one's just become like, you wake up, you go for a ride.
When your wife says you need to go on a bike ride, then that's a sign. Okay.
Yes, that's a good place. Yeah. Like, so road biking. I travel, like I mentioned earlier. That one is just, I take time off and I go enjoy a good meal somewhere with my wife, or we'll do that together as a company. You go get together with our remote team.
Nice.
And mate, yeah. Mate is the secret to everything.
Lots of mate.
Yeah.
All right. And
living
funny.
here in Santa Barbara.
Yeah, that definitely would help. I was in Croatia and Montenegro for the first 3 months of the year because I was spending time. One of my sons was playing soccer in Croatia, and also we have our dev team in Budapest, so I was running up there on a regular basis, maybe with our CTO and the team. But one of the habits I got in there, because I was kind of by myself most of the time, was every day going for like a 2 or 3 hour walk. And I would be listening to audiobooks, and I got so much inspiration from these books, and then the exercise helped, and getting good sleep. And then I came back home and I felt like, oh well, now I got to get back into the old routine. And I stopped doing the walks and I stopped doing my rides. And I found like my ability to solve problems somehow got constricted.
Mm.
And once I started going back out and doing it again, it's like all of a sudden I come back with 5 different ideas, whether I'm on the bike, walking, or whatever. So totally agree with you that that's important. So I expect you to be showing up at Loc World or whatever event I see you next. Bring your bike, man. we got to do that ride we've been talking about.
That's right. The one you and Rick did from Seattle to Portland is pretty impressive. How many miles was that?
Did Rick tell you? So I think it came out to a little over 200, something like that. We did it in like a day and a half, but we started off with 2 serious crashes literally in the first hour. I mean, I will fill in the details next time we talk. I massive, what's the word? Props for Rick for continuing, because if I was him, I would have just pulled the plug right there. I'd be like, no way, man. But he toughed it out and made it down to Portland, and was limping around for a couple of weeks afterwards. But no, that was an adventure, definitely. Well, hey, Jordan, thank you so much for coming on memoQ Talks. And congratulations on your continued success. And I look forward to meeting you at one of the industry events sometime soon.
That sounds great, Mark. It's been great to chat with you this morning.
Thank you for joining memoQ Talks, where we talked with industry leaders about their experiences and lessons learned to gain new insights about what works best across all areas of localization. Join us next time on memoQ Talks.